At my promotion party, my dad suddenly said, "Your raise should go to your sister because she needs it more." My boss, Mark, laughed and replied, "That's funny because she's not getting a single cent." My parents started yelling after hearing that. The night was supposed to be one of the best of my life. I had worked so hard for years, putting in extra hours, taking on tough projects, and dealing with all kinds of work drama. It finally paid off. I got the promotion I dreamed of. With a raise big enough to change my life, I could finally move out of my tiny apartment, save for a house, and maybe even go on a real vacation. My boss, Mark, decided to throw a small party for me at a nice restaurant. It was just a dinner with a few coworkers and my family. I felt proud and wanted my parents to see what I'd achieved, to show them that all the sacrifices were worth it. But the moment my dad spoke, I knew I'd made a huge mistake. We were all sitting at the table, laughing and celebrating. Mark had just made a toast, praising me for working so hard. I was so happy. Then my dad said, "Well, of course, all that extra money is going to your sister. She needs it more than you do." The table went silent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at him, hoping he was joking, but he was dead serious. I tried to laugh it off and said, "What?" But he just sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Your sister's struggling. She's got kids and bills. She needs that money. You don't." I was frozen in shock while my dad acted like what he said was completely normal. My mom was nodding along like this was just how things were supposed to be. My sister, Catherine, kept her eyes glued to the menu, avoiding me. Mark chuckled, shaking his head. "That's funny because she's not getting a dime." My dad looked confused. "Excuse me?" Mark turned to me and asked, "How much of a raise did you get?" 50%, I answered, my face burning. Mark nodded. "And every single penny of that is yours because you earned it." I don't know what your dad was thinking, but it's your money, and if Catherine needs more money, she can earn it, just like you did. My dad's face went red. "Family helps each other," he said angrily. Mark replied, "Sure, but you don't get to decide what help looks like." That's when my parents exploded. My mom snapped, "You don't get to talk to us like that. We're her parents. She wouldn't be where she is without us." Mark leaned back in his chair. "Really? Because from where I'm sitting, she got here in spite of you." My dad looked like he was going to throw his drink at Mark. Instead, he turned to me and hissed, "You're just going to sit there? After everything we've done for you? You're really going to keep that money while your sister is struggling?" Catherine stayed quiet, like she always did, playing the helpless victim while our parents fought her battles. Suddenly, I realized something. They'd spent years making me feel guilty, making me believe I owed them for doing things parents are supposed to do, like feeding me and putting a roof over my head, and they used that guilt to take from me again and again. I looked at Catherine, and she finally met my eyes. She smirked, and just like that, something inside me snapped. I put my drink down, took a deep breath, and said, "No." The whole table went silent. My dad leaned forward, his face dark. "What did you just say?" I said, "No, I'm not giving her my raise. I earned it, and it's mine." Catherine's eyes went wide, and then she started fake crying. But I need it," she said, her voice shaky. "I can barely make rent. The kids." My dad cut her off and shouted at me, "You heartless little." Mark raised his hand. Watch it." But my dad kept going. "We raised you better than this. You don't just turn your back on family. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? By letting your sister suffer?" Mom jumped in. "Of course, you think you got here on your own? You think we didn't make sacrifices for you? We worked hard so you could go to college. Now you have a good job, and suddenly you're too good for us? Too good for your own blood?" Then she crossed her arms and said, "If you don't want to help, fine, but don't expect us to support you anymore." I stared at her, trying to understand what she meant, and then it hit me. She actually thought I needed them, and I just started laughing. I couldn't help it. Years of frustration came out in one loud, bitter laugh. "Support me?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You really think I still need you? You haven't helped me in years. The second I turned 18, you told me I was on my own. I paid for college. I paid my own rent. I built my career without any help from either of you." Dad's face went pale. "That's not true, isn't it?" I snapped. "Back when I was in college, who did you actually help, me or Catherine?" They didn't answer. They didn't have to because I already knew. Catherine, who had dropped out of college, moved through 3 different apartments, and wasted all the money they gave her because she knew they'd always bail her out. And me, the one who worked 2 jobs while taking full-time classes, lived on cheap ramen just to afford textbooks. and barely scraped by while they threw money at her every time she messed up. You didn't support me, I said, my voice shaking. You abandoned me, and now that I finally have something of my own, you expect me to just hand it over? Dad clenched his jaw. She has children. And there it was, the same excuse they always used. Catherine had kids, so everyone else had to sacrifice so she could keep living however she wanted. I turned to her, gripping the edge of the table. You had a job before, right? What happened to it? She sniffled, wiping her eyes. It just didn't work out. It didn't work out, I repeated, just like the job before that? And the one before that? More silence. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair. I don't care, you are not my responsibility. Catherine's lip trembled, then she exploded. You are such a selfish, she shouted, slamming her hand on the table. After everything I've been through, you still won't help? My kids are going hungry, and you're sitting here bragging about your stupid job? You don't even have a family. Support me? I asked, shaking my head. You really think I need you? You haven't helped me in years. The moment I turned 18, you told me I was on my own. I paid for college, my rent, and I built my career all by myself. Dad's face turned pale. That's not true, isn't it? I snapped. Back when I was in college, who did you actually help, me or Catherine? They didn't answer, but I already knew. Catherine dropped out of college, blew through money, and messed up her life knowing they'd always bail her out. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs while studying, living off cheap ramen just to afford textbooks. I struggled while they kept rescuing her every time. You didn't support me, I said, my voice shaking. You abandoned me, and now that I finally have something of my own, you expect me to just hand it over? Dad clenched his jaw. She has children. There it was, the same excuse they always used. Because Catherine had kids, everyone else had to give up what they earned to support her. I looked at her, my hands gripping the table. You had a job before, right? What happened to it? She sniffled and wiped her eyes. It just didn't work out, just like the job before that? And the one before that? I said. More silence. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair. I don't care, you are not my responsibility. Catherine's lip trembled, and then she exploded. You are such a selfish, she yelled, slamming her hand on the table. After everything I've been through, you still won't help? My kids are going hungry, and you're sitting here bragging about your stupid job? You don't even have a family. What do you need the money for? I asked. You're just going to waste it. That was it. I stood up, making a loud noise. The entire restaurant turned to look, but I didn't care. You know what, Catherine? I said, grabbing my purse. Figure it out. And then I walked out. I didn't look back, not when my mom yelled after me, not when my dad slammed his fist on the table, not when Catherine whined about how unfair life was. The funniest part? As I walked out, Mark, my amazing boss, stood up, tossed a $100 bill on the table, and followed me. I stepped into the cold night air, my heart racing, my hands shaking, but feeling lighter than ever. Mark caught up to me, smirking. Hell of a speech. I let out a shaky laugh. You think they'll ever talk to me again? Mark shrugged. Do you even care? I thought about it, and for the first time in my life, I didn't. I should have known it wasn't over. People like my parents and Catherine don't just let things go. For a few days, I ignored the texts, calls, and guilt-tripping voicemails. I blocked my parents and Catherine. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. One afternoon, while I was at work, my phone rang. It was my bank. Hi, we're calling to verify a transfer request. I frowned. Transfer request? Yes, a scheduled transfer from your account to Catherine's account. It's a big amount. My blood went cold. I didn't make any transfer. The woman on the line hesitated. It was authorized through your online banking. The login was from a familiar device. That's when I knew. Catherine had somehow gotten into my account. Cancel it, I said quickly. Cancel everything. The woman sighed in relief. Already done. We had a feeling something was off, but we needed to confirm with you. I hung up and stared at my phone, furious. Then another call came in. Blocked number. I picked up, putting it on speaker. What the hell did you do? Catherine's voice shrieked through the phone. You really thought I wouldn't find out? I said. I needed that money, she yelled. My money? The one you tried to steal? I didn't steal it, she snapped. I was just borrowing it. I was going to pay you back. Really? I said. With what job? Silence. Then she started crying again. You don't understand. I have bills. The kids. I hung up, and then I called the police. I thought that would be the end. I pressed charges. It wasn't a huge amount, she only tried to schedule the transfer, not actually send it, but it was enough for the cops to take seriously. I expected the angry calls, fake apologies, and speeches about how it was all just a mistake, but what happened next shocked me. Because Catherine wasn't working alone. 2 days later, I got an email from my bank. A second attempt had been made. This time, it wasn't just a transfer request, it was a direct withdrawal attempt, in person, by my mother. She had gone into my bank, using whatever personal information she still had about me, and tried to empty my account. She told them I had authorized it, that I was sick and needed her to take care of things for me. But the bank flagged it because of Catherine's first attempt. They put extra security on my account. Mom had no idea and got caught red-handed. I called the bank right away, and as I was on the phone, a text from Dad popped up. Dad, you went too far. You should have just given Catherine the money. Now look what you did. You forced our hand. You forced our hand. That was the moment I knew they were never really my family. I forwarded everything to the cops. The police took it seriously. 2 attempts, one online, one in person. Catherine and my mom were both charged with fraud, attempted theft, and identity theft. When they were arrested, my dad lost it. He showed up at my apartment, banging on the door, screaming about how I was destroying the family, how I was sending my own mother to jail. I stood behind the locked door, my heart pounding. You did this to yourself, I said, and then I called the cops again. Even after all that, my dad wouldn't let it go. Catherine got probation, my mom went to jail. But Dad blamed me, not them, me. He called me every name in the book, telling everyone how selfish and evil I was for letting my own family suffer. At first, I just ignored it, blocked him, blocked anyone who took his side. But then, something interesting happened. A month after my mom got out of jail, I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, an old family friend. Hey, I heard about what happened. Just wanted to say I always knew they treated you badly. I'm glad you finally stood up for yourself. I was surprised, but before I could respond, they sent another message. Family friend, by the way, do you know about the loan? I was confused. What loan? Turns out, my parents were drowning in debt. All those years of giving Catherine money, bailing her out, and helping her live comfortably while I struggled, they weren't just spending their own money, they had taken out a huge $50,000 loan in my name. I felt sick. I dug through everything, credit reports, bank history, every bit of paperwork I could find, and there it was. The loan was under my social security number, with my name on it. The signatures were forged. They stole from me again, but this time, there was proof. I gathered everything, every fake signature, every false document, all the evidence of what they did. Then I called a lawyer. The lawsuit that ruined them. My parents thought I wouldn't dare go after them. They were wrong. With my lawyer's help, I filed fraud charges against both of them. I took them to court. When they saw me walk into that courtroom, prepared with documents, lawyers, and all the anger they had caused, they knew they had messed with the wrong person. The case was simple, the evidence was clear. They took out a loan in my name, forged my signature, and used my credit to pay for Catherine's lifestyle. The verdict? They lost. My mom? Back to jail. My dad? Bankrupt. Catherine? Stuck with the debt. That money they took for her? She was responsible for paying it back. She lost her car, her apartment, and ended up living with her loser boyfriend's family just to survive. And me? I got everything back. The last time I saw my dad, he was outside the courtroom, staring at me like I was the villain. You destroyed this family, he said angrily. I just smiled. No, I finally stood up to the people who tried to destroy me, and then I walked away. I moved out of state, got a better job, bought a house, and cut them off completely. For the first time in my life, I was truly free.